Good morning, everybody. It is 9 o'clock on Sunday, and I feel like somebody hit me with a fucking bag of quarters repeatedly until I passed out. I woke up this morning, could barely move. But life goes on, so here we go. So, I have slowly been changing my gear out to be all more finesse centric, with the exception of one rod and reel that I have yet to put together. I have the reel, I don't have the rod yet because the stuff I want is fairly expensive. Excuse me, haven't had the benefit of caffeine yet. So, what I've basically done is I tried a smattering of different brands of reels, and I've had some that I've trusted for years, but I've wanted to upgrade to more consistency across a product line, regardless of cost. So a couple years ago now, I got a daiwa Revros 2000, and I was very impressed by it. And I gotta say, they resold me on Daiwa in a big way when I tried that reel, and I still use it to this day. It's on my $200 finesse ultralight, custom handmade, and it works brilliantly. Like every 3 to 4 months, I'll pull it completely apart and I'll degrease it with gun solvent and pack grease and re-oil it. So it gives me no issues whatsoever. It's kind of a pain in the ass to clean outside because it's got a lot of surface areas, but they're a pretty reel, which I really don't care about aesthetics as much as functionality. But it is a pretty reel, and Daiwa just has really good looking product. But their stuff is flawless. It really works solid. The drag stack in the 2000 is a 4.4 pound rated max drag, and that's funny because the 25 that's in the Revros. In the RG series, the 2000 has a 4.4. The 2500 has an 8.8 max. It's twice as much. And the funny thing is, it's only from a 2000 to a 2500. So if you talk about exponentiality in reels and drag, it's one of the highest I've seen in increase right off the bat. So I really like that, actually. Just as smooth. It's not like some other reel lines from other companies where they kind of change as they go higher. I found, especially with Abu Garcia in particular, that their super high-end reels are not that much smoother than their lower line, which it means that they're very consistent. But I'm sorry, for me, if I'm paying 200 plus for a reel, it should be a hell of a lot smoother than one that's 80 to $100. That issue is not apparent with Daiwa. It's not like that. Shimano's kind of the same. I really like Shimano's line of bait casters. I'm not too keen on their reels. They just feel a little bit heavier to me than they should. And I'm pretty particular. I don't know. I'm kind of a real finicky, retentive angler when it comes to certain things. So I have switched all of my reels except for my girlfriend's rod to Revroses and RGs on my spinning outfits. The one that I have for my heavy duty, which is going to be bait caster, because I really don't do heavy duty on spinning equipment. I'd rather not. I'd rather it be on a palmed reel. It is the Daiwa Alexa Win 400H, which has rigid aluminum frame, gear side plate, wind grip, custom handle knobs, UT drag, infinite anti-reverse with dual stopper, It's a machined aluminum spool, 6 bearings. It's got a standard magnetic anti-backlash, and the capacity in mono is 245 of 17 and 190 of 20. Now, when I use the swim bait reel, it's usually around 130 to 140 yards of 20 to 25 pound mono. I usually don't go up to 30. It has to be fluorocarbon at that point for me. But this is primarily going to be for swim baits, and I don't use fluoro for swim baits because it sinks faster. And with the kind of swim baits I use, I want it to have some buoyancy because I'd use those really, really slow, bigger bodied swim baits. And I had a really a good setup for a long time, but it no longer served my purpose because I was upgrading my baits as well. So I got this beast, and now you see how the drag is real far down, but it's actually fairly compact because of it being a low profile. This is a 6.3 to 1. The max drag on this thing is 25 pounds. Now, I only have 20 pound on here now. I'm going to tell you right now, somebody did a test with one of these. They put, I don't know why they did this. They put 40 pound mono, Berkeley Trilene Big Game, which is a great standard mono for swim baits, by the way, on that reel, and they were going for frickin' bluefin and yellowtail, and they got a couple 25, 30 pounders on, and it held up. So I know it'll work for that bigger fish hunting game, which I don't do a lot, so that's why I'm not in a hurry of getting the rod, because I'm looking at getting the Dobbins 908 for it. I'm not quite so retentive on rods as I am on reels, because to me, the combination of the leverage I have with the rod that I'm using for the application I'm using it for has a little bit less importance than the smoothness of the drag on the reel to me. I like to let a fish play itself out more than I play it out. I find that it works better for me that way. But I come from a lot of, smallmouth, crappie, white bass, perch, bluegill, and they tend to run themselves out. So that's kind of how I fight them. So anyway, they go through my rigs here from oldest to newest, because I've gone through a lot of rigs. I have, over the last couple of years, I've gone through a lot of rigs. So the first one that I have, and the first daiwa that I got new for from a long time ago, and it's really, really dirty. This is a Revros 200H, or excuse me, 2000H. And I really need to polish the shit out of it. It's dirty as fuck. The bearings that are in these things, the ball bearings that are in these things, are so butter smooth from the start. The handle's fairly long on these reels, but it's got that kind of that recurve to it. And the handle is that sort of spread out at the end one, which I actually kind of like, despite it not being that big. It's pretty comfortable to use. The air spool makes this whisper in the wind. It's kind of cool. The bail is actually fairly solid compared to a lot of reels. You notice even with high-end ones that there'll be a lot of wiggle to them. They'll hold, but there's just that wiggle that happens. This one has very little of it, and it's across the entire line, by the way. The way that this rod is, though, if you look at the handle and everything, it's what's called a down lock. It doesn't lock up to the front, it locks to the back. I did that on purpose because I knew how this reel balances on rods. I knew that preemptively. I do a lot of research. So what this allows for me to do on this rod is I can go all the way from like a 1/100th of an ounce jig head all the way up to I think a 1/4 of an ounce. Yeah, 1/4 of an ounce. And it balances no matter what, all the way up to a 1/4 of an ounce. I mean, it's a really, really, it's balanced right where I like a reel to naturally balance, which is right where my hands front is going to be. But with the down lock, I can be in my standard 2-2 grip, or I can be all the way and I can be fanned out for that really super finesse style. This particular rod is handmade by Ron Weber of Southwest Custom Rods, and I've actually gotten all the way up to, I think the biggest thing I've had on here is a 14-pound channel. I may have had something bigger, but it works really well, especially with this reel. So that's my ultra high end finesse. I'm not going to. That's one of the big differences between me and another type of finesse purchasing fisherman. I'm sorry, spending 3-4 some mega bass rods go for like 1,000 plus. That's retarded to me. I mean, I went to a man who made this by hand with parts that just came out on the market at that point in time, by the way, and I paid $220. So paying somebody for their labor and time and materials to get a rod that will outperform anything in, twice as much of that price range for an ultralight. The G Loomises, I'm sorry, I love them, but $300-400 for one of their rods? No. For an ultralight, not happening. I don't care if I'm a millionaire. I'm going and getting a custom handmade rod if I'm spending that kind of money. Sorry, that's just retarded to me. And I'm trying really hard not to swear because I swear like a fucking drunken sailor. There we go. I let one slip. And I'm going by age here of what I've gotten collectively. The second newest one, boy, I really dirty. I use my rods a lot, so they really get dirty. I purchased a Daiwa Aired X rod, and it's already got pits from me quick sticking hooks in it, and it works brilliantly, really. This is a 701, which is 7 foot, 7 foot 1 inch, medium heavy, fast tip. It is rated quarter ounce to 1 ounce, 8 to 17 pound line. That's the range. It's got a unique spiral round. It's a carbon graphite combination with some fiberglass in it. It's a really well balanced rod all the way around. Another thing with spinning rods that I do is I don't like to get the ones that have that really big first ring. I know it adds distance, but I feel it throws the balance off, and I get rods that have a tendency to have the micro rings the rest of the way. It's just my personal preference. This is a rolled and then braided with fiberglass rod. It's really, really strong. It's ridiculous. Daiwa did a really good job designing a quote-unquote budget conscious rod. They really did, because this is one of their cheapest ones. And even they have some rods that go way the fuck up in there, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna spend that money. I got the rod a little over a year ago. This is the one that I just picked up yesterday. This is the RG 2500 HAB. It's the one that has the 8.8 max drag. I've got 230 yards of 6 pound line on it. It is a medium heavy. I still go as light as I can on line. I find that I have better feel and better control with lighter lines, so that's why I do that. There's something to be said about the limberness of the line. And that is a really smooth reel. And it's brand new. It has not been on the water at all. This one has not been on the water at all either. This is my newest of the new. Now, I picked this reel up Wednesday and this one up yesterday. Had intention of going back and getting it because I had just gotten, I think, a $50 awards point bonus with Sportsman's Warehouse for purchasing this rod and reel here. And the 2500 and the 2000 RG were only 25 cents apart in cost. Figure that one out. They didn't even know why, but they still gave it to me at the price anyway. Point of fact, they at Sportsman's are not really happy with me because I took both the reels out of the boxes to test them on the balance of the rod I'm about to show you. And my response to them when they inquired very enthusiastically in not so nice a manner was, why are you taking the product out? Now we can't sell it as new. And I looked at the sales associate and I said, that's completely moronic. If it still is in the bag and it's still in the box and it's still in your store, it's still new. And he's like, well, yeah, that's true, but it's cut. I said, so get some clear tape and tape it. Tell them it was a display model. They don't really think for practicality in a lot of stores, unfortunately. But once he realized it, and it's funny because this particular guy realized who I was from these videos, actually, and we started really talking. And he's like, yeah, I kind of get your philosophies. I know why you do things the way you do. And we had quite a conversation, which I won't get into, but it was really cool. Like, there was one guy out of, the 300 or 400 that have seen my videos of different kinds that actually remembered me. I'm not looking for fame and infamy, but I thought that was pretty cool because I just walked into a random ass store and somebody realized who I was. So that was pretty cool. So this is the RG 2000. Same design as the 2500, just, one size lower. Again, they all have that skeleton ace handle. They have this little bump here, little ridge in the middle, but they're not jointed like other ones that are two-piece when they roll in. They're not like that. They're just regular two. They're not a triple piece like some. They have a really kind of cool dark green base paint, which kind of lends itself to being a pretty cool looking reel, actually. The Red Rose is a little bit different in their paint scheme. This is a Powell Endurance. It is, I have to switch this around. Yeah, don't knock against fan, please. This is a 7'2", extra fast, light action, 4 to 10 pound, 1/8 to 1/4 ounce. It is expressly for the purpose of complete finesse baits. It has a very unique skeletonized handle system. There's two almost alien looking cutouts here. And when I asked, I inquired with Powell before I bought the rod right there in the store. They said that this was really primarily designed for a woman because of the sensitivity involved in how sensitive it is. And I told the guy, I read him what it said because I was in a chat, same time chat. He said, dude, that's perfect for finesse for anybody then. And it is. I did the turn it over and put the tip on the ground to see how it bends test, and he flipped his lid on that one. But my belief is you really have to know what you're getting into before you get something. So unless I'm ordering off of eBay and I've researched enough to know what something's going to balance like or whatnot, I won't do it unless it's in person. I'll get my rods and my lines and my weights and my lures and stuff like that online easily. But when it comes to rods and reels, I pretty much do it in store now. The Air to X was the last one I ordered online. And one of the other reasons is that the people in this neighborhood are fucking thieves. God, they're fucking retardedly assholic. Excuse my language. So, we have a fairly high volume of miscreant people that live in this neighborhood. Now, I'm not saying I've ever been perfect in my life, but these people fucking take the cake, seriously. And the funny thing is, when the packages are at our front or side door, they'll never leave. But if I or Bear put them over the gate into the back portion of our carport, which it was originally designed to be one long carport all the way to the backyard, but there's a small room there that has the washer and dryer for clothes. If we stick it over the fence back there, or anybody does it delivers, it gets stolen. It's the weirdest effing thing. Like, there's this tall ass solid fence in the backyard. You'd think people would be more inclined to take something that was just sitting there. So it's very problematic. So I would rather do those bigger purchases that are more voluminous and seen, do them in person. And rods and reels definitely fit that category. So the last reel that I ordered online was that Lexa 400. So I just don't do I've got like some drop shot weights coming. I've got some finesse worms coming from eBay. Small stuff like that, but that Powell rod and daiwa combo is only for drop shot for me. I might do some crappie on it because it's light enough to do that, but it is primarily with the express purpose of finesse drop shots up to 4.5 inches and probably no more than that. At a weight of about an eighth to a quarter of an ounce on the drop shot weight itself. Typically using a size 2 through a 1/0 spin shot hook. I don't use standard drop shot hooks because I hate making those knots, but I can just make 2 straight knots on a spin shot and be done. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I went with Daiwa with all of these, and I'm also going to be on hers because of how consistent they are for their cost. They just are really supremely awesome products for the reels. And the Airdex rod is phenomenal for its cost too. So, hey, you need to stay off the rods, okay? My cat, who is a 15.5 pound Maine Coon tabby mix. Good Christ, he's freaking huge. He loves to sniff my equipment for some reason. I think the oil smell appeals to him for some reason. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give some perspective on my style more than I have, and also why I have what I have. Daiwa was just a really solid line of products. I had to get a 2500, by the way, for the Airdex because the Cast King Sharky 2 that I got, it would not end up living as long as I thought it would because they have a reputation for having a monster drag and just lasting. Well, it threw a bearing, and when I say threw a bearing, whatever, I don't remember if it was a catfish or a carp, and I may have just had a lemon. It's possible, but it only takes me once to stop using something. It threw a bearing through the entire case of the reel, and my reel ceased to start turning. The other thing that pissed me off about this Cast King Sharky 2 is that the drag stack is only 4. They're pretty big, hence the reason the drag is so hardcore for its size. But the retainer that retains it's not one of those clip pins. It's this whole thing that's pressed into a sleeve when the spool is cast. Okay? Oh, it's removable. Oh, it is. But there's no upgrading that reel. You don't even get the opportunity to re-grease it because of the fact that it's pressed in, and when you pull it out, as I learned, it destroys the spool, literally. So I have disowned Cast King completely on that point. That's why I got the 2500. So now I have a full lineup. Well, almost. I mean, my Baycaster doesn't have a Dobbins yet, but now I have a full complement of the vein that I'm currently using of equipment, and I couldn't be happier. Daiwa was really badass.